Oh, it's you. It's been a long time. And that was my terrible attempt at copying the GLaDOS Portal 2 intro. Never mind. Um, Crossroads playtesting once again. I have just put some of the finishing touches on the Technomancy update, which is a major update for this mod, and as such needs to be playtested. Now, the thing I'm worried about most with it, believe it or not, is not bugs so much as the documentation. I'm fairly certain I've missed some things in the documentation because not only have I added a lot of things, but a lot of things have changed and I may have forgotten to go back and fix some things. The mod's now on 1.11, so that's good, I suppose. Well, it's a thing anyways. And, well, probably the first change you're going to notice right off the bat is the fact that my chicken boots now have durability. That's while I'm using them. Every time I use them, they take damage. So, but they actually get activated less often out of balance with that. So, yeah, and they can be repaired with in an anvil with poisonous potatoes. I'm perfectly sane, I assure you. Now, I looked back at the last episode I actually released of this, and I realized Bobo and I did a lot of stuff off camera after the end of the last episode, like this building. But this is Bobo's project that he had this idea and he worked on it entirely on his own, like without my help at all. I'm very proud of him or something like that. And then he used commands to build a giant cobble building around it just because he wanted to, I guess. The building's sort of unnecessary. It's itself, but the machinery inside is what's important. It's an element discovery. Oh yeah, this is the sheep. This is a sheep. Say hi to the sheep. It's an element discovery machine. Well, except it's kind of useless now because we've discovered all the elements. But if we wanted to, for example, have something with 2 energy, 2 potential, and 1 stability. Let's see if I remember how to use this thing. 2 potential, 2 energy. We seem to be low on potential. That's not actually a bug in the machine. That just means that somehow some of the magic has gotten out. Yeah. Yeah. It means this thing's running on low on magic. It needs to be recharged because it's not hooked up to the main network or anything like that. However, Bobo never actually told me how to recharge this thing. I think you just put stuff into here, like glowstone, but whatever, that's not important right now. If it were charged, it would work fine. I don't remember everything I did off camera, but but this machine, I don't know if I ever showed it, is for making an enchantment beam, which is a very special element that's like very small on the color chart that enchants things. Enchants things very well. This is a fusion machine. Yeah. Oh no, this one is a rift machine for spawning mobs. Although it's not quite working right now. None of the magic things are working right now because remember my power plant system? I constantly was tinkering with it, trying to make it work better. And well, every time I tinkered with it, I made it worse. So now the entire magic system is pretty much offline in our base, because I keep making it worse. I don't mean tinkering in the code, I mean tinkering with this machine. Yeah. So that's the thing. The real reason it wasn't working perfectly wasn't the concept. It's the fact that there's rounding with these things. And, well, when there's rounding, there's only so much efficiency you can have. So, in Technomancy, there's actually a way of splitting beams without rounding. That I'm sure, without nearly as much rounding, which I'm sure we will be getting involved in at some point. Yeah, Technomancy is a very big update. I actually had to go back before I started recording this video, and once I updated, I had to go back into the base and fix everything that broke. Not as much broke as I was expecting, but, for example, all of the steam turbines literally just disappeared. They just vanishified. I wasn't expecting that. I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting that they'd lose all contained steam, but not that the block itself would disappear. But if that's the only bug that occurs, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that, because that's only when you update from 1.10 to 1.11. It doesn't disappear after that, only during the initial update, and, well, there's a whole list of things that are expected to break when you do the initial update, and that you'll have to people with old worlds will need to go and fix, which I have gone through and fixed. Which I'll probably include, if I remember, I'll include in the changelog. So we've got this giant base, which I made many improvements in air quotes to off camera. Bobo put in this line for transporting, I think it was glowstone over there, something like that. Yeah, we kept tinkering around. Also, you might have noticed, we went and killed the Ender Dragon. I got an Elytra. I still don't know how to bloody use this thing. Oh, sorry for sort of swearing. I don't consider it swearing, but then people did that. I always mess up with this thing. I can never quite take off properly. Sometimes I jump off a cliff with this thing, and I would just go splat at the bottom if I didn't have chicken boots. And I do go splat on the bottom when I take off the chicken boots. It's not the chicken boots messing with it. I don't know. Yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to either learn how to use that thing or make a mod to help me use that thing. So, we've got this giant mess of a base, and it's pretty ill-built, and it's kind of hard to get around, and it's way too small. Everything's compact into one area, and there's not much room for expansion without doing a lot of hollowing out. So, yeah, I have a plan. And to help me with this, I've spawned in shulker boxes. Now, remember, this is a playtesting world, so I'm allowed to cheat. The reason I got shulker boxes is when we went to the end and got the Elytra and stuff, that was back in 1.10. So we killed a lot of shulkers before shulker shells were added to the game. So I just spawned in 16 shulker shells, so we could pretend they dropped shells when we killed them before. I also spawned in another star, because honestly, I'm gonna want another star probably at some point soon for reasons, and I can't be bothered to get wither stuff. To get wither skeleton skulls, because it doesn't actually involve, with Crossroads there's a way to do it that is quite humorous to watch, that does not involve going to the nether and killing wither skeletons. It's very, very painful to do though, for most people. For some people it's just a blast of fun. Not for me. It is like for me 5 minutes, and then it's like, no, kill me now. Basically, you know how if a charged creeper kills a skeleton, they drop a skull? Just a normal overworld skull? Well, you can use a charge beam to charge up a creeper with lightning, right? So then you have to trap skeletons and get them to be killed by creepers. Sorry, get the charged creepers that you have charged up with a charge beam somehow to kill the skeleton. So you get a normal skull, right? Now a rift beam, if it hits a normal skeleton skull, turns it into a wither skeleton skull. See? The problem is trapping skeletons and creepers, charging the creepers, and then getting the creepers to kill the skeletons. It's really not easy, especially since each charged creeper can make a maximum of 1 skull each, even if there's multiple skeletons that they kill. Yeah. I've done that in other worlds. I'm not doing it again. Screw you. So I've spawned another star. Can't be bothered. Okay, so what are we gonna do today? I keep coming back to the fact that our base is really cool, but really terribly built. Because Bobo and I built it organically, and more importantly, Bobo, wink, put thing there, extra stress on that word, and I built it. And also I've changed how the mod works somewhat since then. And also, it wasn't quite work. I had done some experimenting, and that broke some of the important parts of the base before we left the world for the end of the playtesting, but without fixing it. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna make a new base. But not here. Not here. No, no. We're not abandoning this world either. We're abandoning this dimension, but not this world. And we're not going to the Nether or End either. Well, what we're gonna make is a portal to a workspace dimension. Which, from the name, you can guess what it's for. It's like a void world. It's like your standard void world, with a few extra features that are especially designed for technomancy. It's which we'll get to later. So to get there, it's not so much the problem of getting there. It's the question of getting back that's the problem. You know how with most dimensions you generate a portal there and then you build a portal there and it generates a portal back? Not with the workspace dimension. You need to build a portal back. And then you need to power it with a rift beam on the inside, which is a void world. And most importantly, you need to dial the thing, because when you build a portal on the inside of the workspace dimension, it can link to any coordinates in the overworld at all. And so even if there's no portal on the other end, it doesn't check for a portal on the other end. So what you need to do, and by default it links to I think 000. So you need to dial the portal. I suppose sort of like Stargate, though I've never watched the show. I've seen the references in places. You need to dial up some coordinates to the overworld using gears. So we're going to need to do that so we don't land in the void. Yeah. Fairly important, that, in my experience too, I guess. So we need to establish a portal there and back. Although and then we're gonna build a base in the other end, inside that dimension. Sound interesting? I hope it does. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make a large. Oh wait, no. Wait. This is like the 18th thing I'm gonna need to do. Well, the first thing I need to do is show you the recipe we need. We need 6 gateway frames. Notice anything odd about this recipe? Hold on, I'll wait. Yeah, it's the orange ingots. Those are these beautifully textured items. Yes, I know they're bad. Are copshoium, which are made in a fluid cooling chamber with molten copshoium. Which, well, there's no JI integration for this because it's kind of there's no this is a special machine, this molten copshoium. The copshoium creation chamber, so that takes another fluid chamber. Now this machine is not easy to use in the slightest. I've got to be honest here. It's designed to be a challenge to automate. You could say that, certainly. To automate it properly, you need to. If you do it properly, you can use time beams and molten copper to make molten copshoium. Do it improperly, and your machine shatters and leaves behind a fluid copshoium source, which would be bad. Yeah. Yeah, technomancy has a lot of things that are high risk, high reward, or in some cases, just risk. Like most of the machines in Crossroads won't kill you or destroy themselves if they contain 1 millibucket too much of fluid. But in technomancy, the first machine, and literally the first one, can self-destruct if you mess it up. I mean, when we get to fields, it's gonna be like, well, there goes my house. Crap. Well, I didn't like that house anyways. Yeah. You gotta be very careful, especially later on. Oh yeah, I based my base way too much off minecarts. That's part of the problem. Minecarts, in my experience, are glitchy pieces of terribleness, which just stop occasionally, in the middle of tracks where they shouldn't be able to stop. I don't understand it, to be honest. Okay, so where are we going to set up our... So, I kind of want to... How do I put this? My thinking is we need to basically try and get to this dimension with a setup portal as quickly as possible, and then we need to just bring over all of our technology from here into the workspace dimension, and when we rebuild it there, we're going to rebuild it with Kopshoium gears. Not everything needs Kopshoium gears, but some things could be greatly improved with using some light technomancy. Not light as in the stuff in the that comes from the sun. Light as in not heavy. Kopshoium gears are, well, I think you can notice what's interesting about them. Yeah, they've got an I value of 0, which is pretty useful. Believe me on that. It's very, very useful, especially later on in Technomancy, where it means you can have entire networks with 0 mass. So, yeah. Like, our system for making salt and distilled water, that would go incredibly more faster if we had this Kopshoium gears in that thing. Also, ever since... Oh yeah, something that changed is, remember how before there was a steam splitting mechanic on turbines? I removed that and added fluid splitters. So this horrible looking mess replaces that. So this one, for some reason, ever since I re-added that, this one has just been randomly locking up, where the cobblestone will not get broken, like it'll get too low speed. It's really quite troubling, and I think, again, I need Kopshoium gears to rebuild it. I mean, I would do a proper thing to go through, work out what the problem is, fix it, and I could probably do so quite easily, honestly, but I can't be bothered. I'm rebuilding everything in this base! So, yeah, take that, universe. Sure. So, I'm not quite sure where in my giant system I'm going to draw a time beam, especially since my magical power plant is busted. And I can't be bothered to fix it. Honestly, I've spent too many hours on this thing, experimenting, that I don't even want to look at it anymore, if possible. Crap, I'm trapped. I'm trapped. Great. However, I think I actually do need to fix it. At least get it somewhat working. Yeah, yeah, let me do that. I think I've sort of worked out why all these systems are malfunctioning. It's very weird. Look very closely at what's going on in this thing. It's breaking the lava blocks. It's never done that before, that I can tell. Let me fix that. Stability device back online. Okay. Die, zombie. Die. I've also made some repairs to the machine I've also found a few more bugs, which I've fixed because I've changed how rotary energy is used by machines. Most machines don't have an internal gear, which are connected to axially, and I've yet to balance most of them. So some machines, like, it was pretty ridiculous. It was almost impossible to get enough energy or a high enough speed to power them with the new system. So I need to go through and, like, tweak all the numbers for, like, the moments of inertias and the required speeds and everything. So, like, discovered that the item chute had an unreasonable goal for energy. So lowered that. Well, so I fixed that. So which is why the salt machine was broken, for example. By the way, I did a little tinkering of it, but the farms are those two farms are completely broken because I removed the feature of fertile soil emitting a redstone signal because observers are in the game now. So I haven't actually fixed those yet, and I probably won't because we have a nice stockpile. I probably won't fix them until we rebuild the whole base. Where are all these zombies coming from? Okay, I've gotten the 3 of them online. Yeah, I had done a lot of experimenting previously with these things, hadn't I? Because, like, I had to rewire a lot of stuff. Now, admittedly, I did also change some of the formulas involved, so these would have had to be rewired anyways, though not as much as I had to do because of all of my experimenting before. I changed it so that I changed the equation for ratiators reading from lens holders. I left it the same for comparators, but for ratiators, it's 1-to-1 now. I also changed it for ratiators with a few other devices, but left comparators the same. And the reason I did that is that there are certain devices where, like, I think toggle gears is one of the examples, where I had to put in a weird formula because otherwise comparators, which can't do decimal points and are capped at 15, they wouldn't really be able to discern many of the many of the nuances. It would be really hard to stop it at you'd either end up with something where even at starting at a pretty low speed, you've already hit 15 on the comparator, which is no good, or you'd end up with something where you'd have to get incredibly high speeds before the comparator notices a difference. So that's why I did some weird equations involving squaring and stuff like that. So with ratiators, I don't have to do that, so I can do a sane formula. Yeah. Which is easier to work with, but only really useful if you have access to decimal points and multiplication and all that stuff. So I've got my magic system back online, and be right back. Excellent. Now that I've fixed the main magic power plant, this Rift machine is now operational. Now, originally I don't even know if I don't think I ever recorded this thing. It was supposed to be a mob trap, although, yeah, I never finished it. As you can see, I never finished it. I think it was supposed to be that I didn't really want spiders, so I just set it up. Yeah, I never built this thing properly, did I? I mean, this might be better than my plan, but still. Anyways, yeah, if I could just turn this off. The reason I want this rift machine working is not right now because I need a mob trap, but because I'd rather have a rift beam to power the portal to the workspace dimension. Not, admittedly, that I have the Kopshoium yet to make the portal frame with. That has to come first. Now, I don't have a machine anywhere that makes time, except, admittedly, for Bobo's discovery machine with the sheep. Let me try putting some glowstone in this thing, and we're gonna... let me just test how well this thing can make time, because I'm definitely gonna automate Kopshoium at some point. Now, the problem with the thing about automating Kopshoium is, remember how with copper, at first you have to do that horrible thing with finding the nuggets and so on, and then you can actually process it and it's way better? There's something similar that goes on with Kopshoium. At first you have to make it up with molten copper, but which of course is not really automatable. You can automate parts of it, but not like obtaining a molten copper. But later on, once you've progressed a bit, you can actually make it out of distilled water instead of molten copper, which is automatable. And also much cheaper. However, if you do it that way, then you have to use, without getting too far into it right now, something called chronofields, and it gets very complicated, and if you mess up, you could blast yourself into the next dimension. Okay, that bit's an exaggeration. There is no effect of it going wrong, blast you into the next dimension, but very bad things can happen if you mess it up, when you start trying to use chronofields. But you can also get all sorts of very good things. Now, if I could only remember where it is that Bobo's system puts the glow... This is Bobo's. See that thing up there? Bobo built that, and I don't remember where it ends. I just know that it's taking all the glowstone dust somewhere. Ah. Bobo's fusion machine. By the way, I nerfed fusion. It can no longer make diamond blocks. That was OP. It has a whole new set of recipes now, though. It can make prismarine, for example, and stuff. You can make sea lanterns. Like, anyways, I'm getting myself. I want to test to see if this machine actually still works. It should, but let me just charge it up. I like how Bobo had to put a sign to label which way each thing goes. I don't know, does this look charged? Looks fairly charged-ish. It's a whole room. I've never actually investigated how it works, to be honest, because Bobo built it. He later designed a better, a much smaller thing than this giant room that fits in a much smaller area and is a lot simpler. And I haven't learned how that one works either. And he didn't build it in this world. But now let's try again just to test this thing. 2 stability, 1 potential, and 2 energy. Sure. So that should be a 2, 1, 2. Let's just test if this works. Did that work? Yes, it did. Now, strangely enough, Bobo never... This thing used to have a return to system, but it seems like Bobo got rid of it, I think, at some point, so that it just applied an output here. So let me just get rid of that. Yeah. So let's see if I can remember... I don't remember time off the top of my head, honestly. It's somewhere around here. Hold on, there's a new search bar. Let me use that. There we go. Time. Yes, I added a search bar because I'm so fancy. Yes. It can do all sorts of searching because I'm fancy. Okay, so what is that? That's what, like 5-2? I think that's 5-2. Let's see. Oh no. 2. This thing works off binary. You sum the numbers involved. Let's try that. Yes, 5-2. That made time. Very good. Which does all sorts of fancy things. Time does all sorts of fancy things. Like speed up time for tile entities. So this is a power of 7, yes? Oh, and this machine can't do void. It would be nice if it did. Now what I'm thinking is... Bobo would kill me if he found out I was going to do this, so I'm not going to tell him that I'm going to do this, but I'm sort of going to cannibalize this. I'm not going to tear apart this machine. I'm going to leave this machine as like a monument to Bobo working out how to do something. But I want to make Cop Showium, which requires time beams, right? It doesn't require continuous time beams. It requires pulses carefully timed. Well, not carefully timed, just not sent in at the wrong time. I don't need a lot of Cop Showium to start with. I just need enough, and then I'll be able to do proper. Then I'll be able to properly automate this system. Okay. And maybe even automate with distilled water. At which point I will make a proper automated system that keeps a chest stocked with Cop Showium or something. But until then, I think I'm gonna make it manually, and I'm gonna get the time beams from this thing. Don't tell Bobo or he'll kill me in 8 different ways. 8, yes, exactly. By the way, if I press this button again, it'll double up. Because this thing is cool. Yeah, Bobo did a cool thing. So, let me go make some Cop Showium stuff. Cop Showium creation stuff. One of the reasons I want to vacate this base, there's random items sitting everywhere that I constantly pick up for no reason. I just learned something about shulker boxes. Like a chest, they don't work if there's something on top of them. I did not know that. See, I have not played 1.11 much yet, as you can see. So let me get this. Note to self, automate pure quartz. Oh, yes, this is important. I can't craft a Cop Showium creation chamber in a normal crafting table. I have to unlock Technomancy first, which requires this device called a detailed crafter, which is just basically a crafting table with that can also do a few special things. So let me get one of those. I'm gonna need some tin. And of course it has bing bop. It has JEI support. There we go. So this is just, you know, a crafting table. I can stick it anywhere. It doesn't even keep items when you take it out, just is a crafting table. But you can see there's these 3 icons here. A flask, a gear, and a leaf. These each represent a path. Alchemy, Technomancy, Witchcraft. Only Technomancy is implemented so far. The other 2 are unimplemented, so you can't unlock those. So, in order to actually unlock Technomancy, I need to do two things. First, I need to discover the time element, which I have done already in this world. And then the second thing I need to do is take 9 bronze gears, go to any detailed crafter, and place a bronze gear in each slot. Ta-da! And this bronze, and the Technomancy icon has lit up. And it's not locked to the crafter. This is my player that is the one who's unlocked it. It's not the crafter that's unlocked Technomancy, it's me. If Bobo were to look in this table, he would not see this lit up gear. And now I can actually craft this Kopshoyum creation chamber. So let me do this. Oh, I got my things reversed. Sorry. Dang it. There we go. And only someone who's unlocked Technomancy can do that. So I've now got a Kopshoyum creation chamber. Beautiful. And by beautiful, I mean this is an ugly abomination that... See, this is why I spent so long trying to find an artist, and then I gave up. I just textured things myself. Okay. Alright, so I've made myself some molten copper. Quite a bit of it, in fact. Oh, I don't want to break this. Now, the trick with... Now, when we're trying to make Kopshoyum out of molten copper, there's two... things you have to worry about. That you don't put in too much molten copper at a time, and that you hit it with the right amount size time beam. When you try to make it out of distilled water, there's 3 things to worry about, the third thing being flux, but that's fields, and we're not there yet. We're nowhere close to that, actually. So, the way this thing works is you put in molten copper, you hit it with a time beam of the right size, and the size of the beam depends on the amount of molten copper you put in. So you've got a little margin for error, but if you go above that margin, then you just overpower it and vaporize the created Kopshoyum, so you basically just lose the copper. And if you go below that, nothing happens at all. And then, when you actually create the Kopshoyum, it expands. So it's something like 9 millibuckets of Kopshoyum per 5 millibuckets of copper. So 5 copper ingots would make you 9 Kopshoyum ingots. So what happens if it expands to be more than the capacity of the machine, then the machine just breaks and turns into a flowing source of molten Kopshoyum. So for right now, since we're doing it manually, we can't really fine-tune it. We just have to be very careful. So part of what the tools, one of the tricks we have for manipulating the amount that goes in here is that it has 2 fluid ports. The top one, it can insert or extract, which means it uses the pressure system, and the bottom one only extracts. So I've done the math, and hold on, let me just empty this first, because this one's actually too big. And I need to get about 500 millibuckets in here, in this machine itself. So, really? Get away. I'm making a video. Get lost. So, pressure system being what it is, and the tank having such a big capacity, I'm going to need to put more copper. Hopefully I've got enough copper. Oh, wow, I might not actually have enough to... Wow. Right. Okay. Yeah. Let me think here. Okay, I'm willing to lose. I think I'm gonna have to get more. Yeah, that's the problem with this, the capacity of this tank being so high. I need a way to move it into a smaller container. I may have made a mistake here. Let me put as much of this back as I can. Probably lost a bucket, as it is, in the piping. Yeah, about a bucket. Let me think. Alright, so I'm going to use the newly added fluid splitter, which is part of Technomancy now, and which I have in the basement as well. This way I can sort of force it to go in. Okay, so this is just a crude, you know, I'm still running this thing manually sort of system, and why is it not going through? Ah, right, because I'm stupid. That's why. When in doubt, assume stupidity. Ah, I am forgetting the fact that this thing does not auto-output. Of course, you require a tube. Doi, I believe is the term. I believe the term of art is doi. Yes, that is exactly the term. Yes. Tube and sure. Alright, so if I siphon this back through, see, now we're getting somewhere. We get one more bucket full. Don't go too much. Okay. Now, that might be slightly too much. Hold on, let me check something. That's 15 millibuckets too many. Now, what I might be able to do is manipulate the time beam that I create just so that it's slightly more powerful. This might still count as time. That is the hope. It does not. Okay. Fair enough. Because I need to get the power exactly right. Let me try... Instead of adding stability, let's try adding... one more energy? Could that work? There we go. That should work. Now, we've got molten copper in this thing, yes? Now, what was the rule here? I don't like that. Stop! Are you kidding me? I'm fixing this in cheat mode. Okay, it doesn't look like anything down here was damaged, which is good, because I don't really know how to fix it. I'm not sure how to fix this thing. Okay, worked it out. There's many things that Bobo may have neglected to tell me, or maybe I just wasn't listening. First off, this has to be a stone button, not a wooden one. My bad. The second thing is, it looks like this machine was designed to either have all the magic that it produces in this section here that I'm looking at go back into the charging station, like the power source, or it was designed to be recharged after every use. Now, I vaguely remember Bobo mentioning something about this to me, but yeah, I thought it could be used more than once without being recharged, so that's a thing. Alright, so let's get back to this thing. So the other important thing about molten copshoium and all that stuff is that besides the other risks, you can't don't mix molten copper and copshoium in this machine, because I think you'll lose the copshoium. Alright, so it's got some stuff in it and all that magic-y doodly. Let's just pull the lever. None. My time beam was too powerful. That is the explanation here. Okay, let me check my math. No, I know it happened. Right, I'm forgetting something important here. The time beam was the correct power, in actuality. What went wrong is a little more subtle. If you hit copshoium with a time beam, it destroys the copshoium. So this machine stores up, I think, 4 little beams in it that it sends out together. Yeah. So I'm going to be more careful with this lever. I just need like a couple batches of copshoium. That is all. So it just so happens that I get incredibly lucky. I forget to flip this lever up when pressing this button to fill up this section. So it just so happens that I get incredibly lucky. The way Bobo has designed this, if this lever is down, you'll get exactly 1 beam of the time element, and the rest will be other elements that don't matter and therefore don't affect this machine. So it just so happened that by leaving the lever down, I just get molten copshoium. Okay, that works for me. I'm satisfied with that. Sure, thank you, universe. Very good, top notch. Very satisfied. So, yeah. Okay, empty this tank. We now are going to finally be able to process this beautiful, make some beautiful, some of the most beautiful Kopchoium ingots you've ever seen. They're just gorgeous. Look at, they're so beautiful. Look at that beautiful texture. Have you ever seen a texture that beautiful before? I didn't think so. We've now got 6, count them, 6 Kopchoium ingots. Oh yes. Lovely. Yes, I know I'm being completely ridiculous. And I'm fine with this. There's all sorts of things we can do with this stuff. Chunk unlockers, that's for fields. Gateway frame, that's what we're making it for right now. Mechanical beam splitter. Beam cage, cage charger, beam staff, modular goggles, prototyping table, rate manipulators, flux manipulators, both of those things are for fields as well. Prototype pistol, prototype watch, redstone registry, and there's other technomancy stuff that doesn't use Kopchoium, like the redstone keyboard. Of course, we just saw the Kopchoium creation chamber. What else is there? Also, there's tons of special types of master axes that are very important in technomancy. That can do mathematics. There's a cheaper in air quotes, master axis recipe. Way less iron, but it uses Kopchoium. Also, we got the mechanical arm, though that uses the Kopchoium gears. Yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff in technomancy. Some pretty cool stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to need a few more batches, but the thing we want, the gateway frame, we need 6 of these things. And I just noticed something. This recipe is supposed to make 3 of them. Yes, that would be, let me fix that. Because that, yeah. We'll craft these next episode. Now that you've seen how to make Kopchoium, I'm going to make a bunch. And also I'm going to fix this recipe. Let me do that.